Grandpa's going to read you Curly-Locks and the Big Bad Hairbrush. Once there was a little girl with super curly hair named Curly-Locks. She lived with her family in a tiny town next to the tallest forest. Now, Curly-Locks had a large family. There were lots of aunties, uncles, and cousins. Friday was Auntie Day. That morning, Daddy baked a pie for each of Curly-Locks' 3 aunties. Auntie Lizzie adored sweet potato pie. Auntie Bertie loved blackberry pie. And Auntie Adele fancied savory chicken pot pie. Curly-Locks, here are the pies for your aunties. Savory or sweet, the aunties love their treats. Make sure to bring each auntie the whole pie, says Daddy. Curly-Locks plopped the pies into her red wagon and packed her bag with her favorite dream jar, a butterfly net, and her hairbrush. She and the little red wagon bounced along the path to Auntie Lizzie's. Curly-Locks saw bright orange daisies growing around an old tree stump. Those orange daisies would be lovely next to the sweet potato pie. She picked the flowers and dropped them into the wagon. As she got closer to Auntie Lizzie's pink house, she took a quick peek at the flowers and the sweet potato pie. Curly-Locks was anxious to try a tiny piece. Surely a small morsel from the center would not be missed. Curly-Locks reached for the pie. Suddenly she heard, "Savory or sweet, the aunties love their treats. But if you eat that pie, the aunties will ask why." Curly-Locks looked around and saw her hairbrush, and she answered, "Oh, please hush, you big bad hairbrush." She quickly gobbled a tiny piece of pie and then knocked on Auntie Lizzie's door. "Here's your sweet potato pie, Auntie Lizzie," said Curly-Locks. "Daddy made the whole pie just for you." "Thank you," said Auntie Lizzie. She gave Curly-Locks a hug and lifted the pie cover. "Did someone gobble my pie?" asked Auntie Lizzie. Curly-Locks squeezed one eye shut, took a tiny breath, and whispered, "No?" Just as she said no, her curly hair grew way bigger. Auntie Lizzie stared at Curly-Locks' hair and pondered her gobbled pie. She sent Curly-Locks on to Auntie Bertie's house. As she made her way to Auntie Bertie's house, Curly-Locks found a curious rock. It looked like a tiny full moon. It was round and had brown dimples. She gently tucked the rock into her dream jar. The flat bottom and dimpled top of the moon rock reminded Curly-Locks of Auntie Bertie's blackberry pie. As she got closer to Auntie Bertie's blue house, she stopped to smell the blackberry pie. She thought about the sweet and tart blackberries. A small smidge would not be missed. Curly-Locks reached for the pie when suddenly she heard, "Savory or sweet, the aunties love their treats. But if you eat that pie, the aunties will ask why. Curlylocks looked around and saw her hairbrush and sighed. Then she answered, "Oh, please hush, you big bad hairbrush." She nibbled a tiny piece of pie and then knocked on Auntie Birdie's door. "Here's your pie, blackberry pie, Auntie Birdie," said Curlylocks. "Daddy made the whole pie just for you." "Thank you, Curlylocks," said Auntie Birdie. She gave Curlylocks a hug and lifted the pie cover. "Did someone nibble my pie?" asked Auntie Birdie. Curlylocks squeezed one eye shut, took a tiny breath, and whispered, "No." Just as she said no, her curly hair grew way, way bigger. Auntie Birdie stared at Curlylocks' hair and pondered the nibbled pie. She sent Curlylocks to Auntie Adele's house. As she walked to Auntie Adele's yellow house, Curlylocks heard a buzzing noise. She looked up and found one sparkling, pale blue dragonfly. He was flying up and down and side to side. Curlylocks caught the dragonfly with her butterfly net. She let him out of the net and he glided to the top of the pie cover. When Curlylocks shooed the dragonfly away, she could smell the pie spices. Curlylocks peeked at Aunt Adele's pie. One little taste of crust would be yummy. She reached for the pie when suddenly she heard, "Savory or sweet, the aunties love their treats. But if you eat that pie, the aunties will ask you why." Curlylocks looked around and saw the hairbrush again, and she answered, "Oh, please hush, you big bad hairbrush." She plucked a tiny piece from the side and then knocked on Auntie Adele's door. "Here's your chicken pot pie, Auntie Adele," said Curlylocks. "Daddy made the whole pie just for you." "Thank you, Curlylocks," said Auntie Adele. She gave Curlylocks a hug and lifted the pie cover. Auntie Adele peeked at the pie and then at Curlylocks. "Did someone pluck a piece of my pie?" asked Auntie Adele. Curlylocks squeezed one eye shut, took a tiny breath, and whispered, "No." Just as she said no, her curly hair grew way, way, way bigger. Auntie Adele stared and said, "Curlylocks, telling me the truth will not get you into trouble. When you want to share, it's good to ask." "Okay," said Curlylocks said, relieved. "Auntie Adele, I gobbled a piece of Auntie Lizzie's sweet potato pie, nibbled a bit of Auntie Birdie's blackberry pie, and plucked a piece of your chicken pot pie." Suddenly, her way, way, way bigger hair shrunk neatly back into place. Auntie Adele gave Curlylocks a hug and called the other aunties over for dinner. They set out a picnic and watched the dragonflies dash around while they ate sweet potato pie, blackberry pie, and savory chicken pot pie. The end. Other Curlylocks books.